G'day, I'm Scott Poynton and welcome to the TFT's Earthworm podcast. Our Earthworm podcasts are all about change, and I recently met up with TFT's Director for North America, Robin Barr, who shared with me a wonderful story about how she helps people bring change to their lives. And it's all about whether they can swim, indeed whether they can float. And Robin shared with me how as she's travelled the world, she's met with people who fundamentally believe they can't float. But through a wonderful process of building trust and encouraging them, Robin helps them to cross the bridge. And before you know it, they're doing laps out in the ocean with Robin by their side, enjoying the wonderful experience of swimming. And why is this an important story? Well, it's important because it helps us understand that no matter what we fundamentally believe, change can still happen. And the other important aspect of the story is that the first step, in this case, floating, is the hardest. But once you've passed that, change can happen quickly. It's an uplifting story because I think it really highlights the key ingredients of the change process, which is trust. So over to Robin to share with us how she brings trust and comfort to people who fundamentally believe they can't swim.
Anyway, so here we are, beautiful Lac Le Mans. We've got the birds in the background. It's a magnificent sunny day. The yachts are out. And I'm talking to Robin Barr. And Robin is one of TFT's directors. She's based in Seattle in the US. And I was talking to her about the Earthworm podcast and the terrific stories that we collect as we go around the world about change. I said to Robin, have you got any change stories? Knowing full well that she does. And could she share one with me? And preferably not about TFT. And I think she's told me the story already, but we're going to record it now. She's got a terrific change story that I think really captures the essence of how change happens. So Robin, welcome to the TFT Earthworm podcast.
Great to be here.
Great to have you. We've got the swans out there now. It's so magnificent. Tell us the story, and of course, quite fitting that we're next to water. Tell me the story that you shared with me about people floating.
Yeah, so you asked me, I believe, to describe a change process and what the elements of that were. And one of the things that I love to do, that I really enjoy doing in my spare time, and I've done this in multiple places that I've lived. I've lived in quite a few tropical countries, remote areas. Beautiful beaches, warm ocean. If you can snorkel, there's an amazing diversity of fish there. And a lot of my local friends who I make in those regions don't know how to swim. And so for me, it's absolutely heartbreaking because here you are in this beautiful tropical country with white sand beaches. What do you want to do with your friends on the weekends? You want to go swimming, but they don't know how to swim. So one of the things I really like to do in my free time is teach people how to swim. And it's interesting because almost all of them, when you say, hey, can I teach you how to swim? They'll say, well, you see, the thing is, I don't float.
You're just one of these strange people that apparently don't float, right?
Exactly. They say, other people who can swim, they can float. I just have something about me, I can't float. And I know everyone can float. The laws of physics say that if you are human, you can float. Right? But somehow they have convinced themselves that they cannot float.
Is it fear of the water, do you think?
I think it's probably a bad experience that they had at one point. And then also, if people get into the water and panic, then they tend to sink. So I think it's also a fear resulting in a panic, resulting in a sink, right?
Pretty scary stuff.
So what I usually do is I say, I fundamentally know, I absolutely with 100% assurance know that you can float. And just let me teach you how. We'll take it really slow. I'll be there. I'll hold your hand. If you want to stop at any point, you can stop. But let me just try, please. It will be really fun, right? And I'm not an expert swimmer, but I don't think that somebody should go through their entire life, especially if you live right on the beach, and never experience swimming.
The joy of swimming, and as you say, in particularly magnificent places.
Absolutely. And so I just feel like it would be a shame to allow that to happen. So what I do is I usually bring a snorkel mask with me. And then I bring whatever friend it is that I'm trying to teach to float, and I have them stand in about waist deep water. And I start out by putting the snorkel mask on them and just getting them comfortable with putting their head in the water, having their eyes open. For some reason, another thing that I think scares people is having their eyes closed. So having their eyes open so that they can see, practicing holding their breath, just getting comfortable with their head in the water, feet still on the ground.
I imagine when you first do this, there's a lot of heavy breathing through the snorkel, right?
Yeah, and tight grabbing of the arm,
Even though they're standing in waist-deep water.
Exactly. But you're asking them to do something that's very much outside of their comfort zone. So once they get a little bit comfortable with having their head in the water, then I say, okay, now the next step is I need you to grab both of your knees and form a ball.
And they're like, you're on drugs or something like that. What planet do you think I'm from?
And their instant reaction is, well, I'm going to sink, right? And I say, I promise you will float. Now, when you first do it, you will sink a little bit. But then if you don't panic, if you continue holding your knees, you'll float to the top. I guarantee it, right? And, there's doubts, there's wondering, there's
raised eyebrows.
Wanting to make sure I will indeed grab and save them if they do indeed sink.
They're certain to drown in this waist-deep water.
Right.
They're convinced.
Exactly. And so, sometimes on the first go, they briefly hold on to their knees, they feel themselves going down a little bit, they freak out and they put their feet back down. And I say, okay, that's okay. Breathe. Once you're ready, let's just try it again. You just have to hold on to your knees longer. Just keep them up. So eventually they do it. They hold on to their knees, they sink down just a little bit, and then if they resist the urge to freak out, they float to the top. And I let them float there for a little bit, and whenever they're ready to stand up, then they stand up, and the look on their face.
Big grins, big smiles.
Shock, amazement.
Hey, I floated.
Joy. They had a sensation they've never had before in their entire life. And once they get that down, once they get the beach ball float down, then you can start to teach them the Superman or work with them on flipping over onto the back or practice a doggy paddle or this kind of thing. But it's really about getting them over that first fear and that first initial belief that I cannot float. And just that experience of floating, they love it. They want more. I think humans naturally want more.
It's a joy to float, isn't it? You're in the water, you're weightless, and especially with a mask on, and you can see what's going on. And there's probably little fish floating around in there, so they're opening their eyes to a world they've never experienced.
Exactly. It's such a thrill. And that look on their face when they come up, it makes it all worth it.
So what's the key ingredient, Robin? Why does this happen? What's the transition between I can't float with 100% certainty and there's no way I'm going into that water with you, to the look on their face? What's the secret ingredient, or what are the secret ingredients? What makes it happen, do you think?
Well, it starts out with a lot of cajoling from me. A lot of, come on, you're going to like it. I promise. You should really do this. Come on, I'm out there all alone. Please come with me. I'm really bored out there. It's so much fun, So there's a bit of wearing them down that has to take place. And then there's also the assurance, I will be out there with you. I absolutely will not let you sink. I guarantee everything will be fine. And I am confident that I can teach them how to float. I'm confident that they can do it. I don't believe that there is a person on Earth who cannot float unless maybe they have a lead leg or something. I might make an exception, right?
See if you can get them some floaties on their arms to overcompensate. And you mentioned you've done this all around the world, and it's universal, right? The joy of change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've done it in Kenya. I've done it in Indonesia and quite a few places. Mostly women.
Do you think that's important? Do you think, obviously being a woman yourself, do you think a man or even a young lad, do you think they would have that same trust? Clearly, a key ingredient here is trust. Yeah. Yes, you wear them down, but in the end of the day, they're going out there in their mind to put their life on the line alongside you, and they're trusting you to make sure that they don't die. These people that you've known a long time, have you built up a relationship with them over a long time, or within a couple of weeks in the village, they're out there floating with you? What's your sense? It's really about trust, isn't it?
Yeah, we have to be good friends to begin with for them to even allow me to wear them down. Right. In all honesty, otherwise they might get a bit annoyed with me. And so yeah, they need to trust me. They need to actually want to spend time with me. And I think there also needs to be something just inside them that maybe even if they don't believe they can do it, maybe they've sort of always wanted to, It's the thing inside that you're actually setting free, right? Absolutely.
Well, I think it's a great story, and I think it resonates a lot with the things that we're trying to do in our day-to-day and help people touch what's inside them and set it free to try something different and see if they can change the way they're working or the way they're living their life.
And take a risk. And it's amazing the power of saying, don't worry, I'll be there with you. I'll be right by your side.
Well, I think it's a great story and a great way to finish it up. So thank you so much, Robin.
Thanks, Scott.